Hello, Stitch People. Welcome to the Stitch People podcast. I'm Lizzie Bean, your host and the founder of Stitch People, where our goal with cross-stitching is to inspire your personal creativity, and our goal with podcasting is to help you make some new friends while you're at it. I had such a fun time talking with Lauren, who is the subject of today's episode. She is just such a fun and interesting person. She's a mom, she's a wife, her husband's in the military, she is a maker, and she is someone who is leaning into taking bold choices. I just think it is great. And I think you'll be really inspired and uplifted by hearing all about her. I don't want to give anything away because we just talk about so many different subjects and all the things she's into and things that light her up. And it was so much fun to get to know Lauren. I know you're going to feel like you have a new friend in her. So without further ado, please enjoy this lovely conversation. Hello, Lauren. Welcome to the Stitch People podcast today. Thank you for being here. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you for having me, Lizzie. This is super exciting for me.
Good. I'm glad. It's a fun thing. I have been wanting to find a way to sort of take the Stitch People community offline, and February 1st, 2020 was our first live event, and we were going to start doing more live events. And I was like, oh no, nobody can meet in person. So while things are still, unknown, even though it's opening up, this is a good in between. Yeah,
so
where are you located?
So we're currently in Utah.
Great.
I say currently just because my husband's in the military. So we are moving around a lot.
So are you up north near the base? I say up north because I'm in Orem.
Oh, no, we're actually down in Spanish Fork, so I'm not too far from you.
Awesome. That's, for those who don't know, Spanish Fork's like 20 minutes south of where we're at, which is like an hour south of Salt Lake City proper.
Yeah.
So
you have Target, so I know exactly to the minute how long it takes me to get to Target.
Right off the Center Street exit. Yeah. Oh, I love a Target. Love it.
Yeah.
Great. So are you from Utah originally, or are you just here for the military stuff?
Just here for some military stuff. And it's kind of a weird situation because it's not even really military related right now.
Okay.
It sort of is. The military is actually, the Army's sending my husband to law school in order for him to, I know, right? That's an awesome opportunity. But they're sending him to law school in order for us to continue on. I say us, but him to continue on as a military JAG eventually for who knows how many more years.
Interesting.
So I am not from Utah. This was a whole new experience for me.
Okay. Where are you from originally?
Here, Pennsylvania.
Okay. I was going to say, it depends. Yeah. I mean, if you're from like Idaho or Colorado, I'm sure it's like, Utah. But Utah. Coming from the East is, that's a big change.
Yeah. It's a big change. I mean, thankfully, the people here are just wonderful. They're so kind, and it does feel like home.
Oh, good.
But it's just still, we went back to Pennsylvania for 2 weeks this summer, and my heart's still there. Yeah. I'm just like, that is home for me. So I can't wait eventually, whenever we're done with the military fun, that we can go back and settle down. Yeah. But my husband is from Utah, so that's kind of why we're here.
All right. Yeah. All right. Yeah. Pennsylvania. I have a lot of like ancestry in Pennsylvania. My mom lived in Pennsylvania when she was little. But my family now is kind of primarily New England based, my extended family. So I haven't spent a lot of time in Pennsylvania. And when Spencer and we got an RV, and because we have 3 dogs and they're aging, and we've gotten weird about like dogs that live in kennels and stuff. So we, of course, to be able to visit my East Coast family, we take everybody in the RV. And the first time we drove through Pennsylvania, I was stunned. Like, there are so many bridges and rivers and ravines, and like Pennsylvania's way more hilly than I knew or thought. I don't know, because I figure it's kind of nestled into going into the Midwest. I figured it'd be more flat than, I mean, I was used to the White Mountains in New Hampshire and Appalachians in New York. But yeah, Pennsylvania's terrain is kind of all over the place in a really gorgeous way, because it's all covered with green, no less.
Yeah, so, it's beautiful. Yeah. It's so beautiful. And I don't think you appreciate that until you leave it. Mm-hmm. Like before we moved to Utah, we were down in Georgia, and it's fairly similar to Pennsylvania. But then we went back
also hillier than I anticipated.
Yes, that is true. Yeah. But we go back home, and I'm just like, oh, these are not mountains. And I grew up thinking the mountains in Pennsylvania are mountains. Yep. And then you move to Utah, and you're like, not mountains.
Not even close. Yeah. Utah has turned me into a mountain snob. I find that we moved out here when I was in high school. So I have like green forests in my blood. But when I, living in Utah, I miss the green and the humidity and just the vegetation is so lush. I love trees. I'm a forest girl at heart. But then when I go back east, I'm like, yes, I'm in the woods, but I really miss the mountains. I really miss
isn't that
funny? For those who haven't visited Utah, anywhere you go, the Rocky Mountains are ever present in a massive way that you kind of can't fathom till you get here.
Yeah.
Like
accurate.
when you walk out from the airport, it's like boom. Like just
it's something.
Walls of mountains and huge mountains, like 15,000 foot mountains instead of like the 4,000 footers in New Hampshire. So it's like just huge behemoths. And I find that the mountains are to the east. So I always can orient myself on a map which direction I need to go. And I lose that back east because it's hard. You don't have a visual to say, that way, So anyway, there's my mountain tangent.
No, I love it. I've come to appreciate mountains in a whole new way since moving here. And I don't know, there's still something about Pennsylvania, but Utah is going to be hard to leave too when we have to go. So we've got a couple more years here, thankfully, but the time will come and who knows where we're going to go next.
Well, that's kind of nice that it's almost like, I always think of that quote in The Office at the final season. I don't know anyone who knows that show. Andy Bernard, he goes, I wish they'd tell you that you're in the good old days when you're in them. And I feel like when you have The
Office, I have the whole Office Tumblr.
I love the pretzel day.
I know that Office quote.
It's a good one. And it pulls at your heartstrings because it's so true. And I look back on old jobs the same way. And I feel like when you're going to be leaving a place, like maybe you're in school. And so you're in a place to get the degree and then you're going to leave, you go back home or whatever the next plan is. And so it's almost a little easier to appreciate where you are because it's going to end. Yes, so it's like you're more inclined to go out and see and do and really soak in a place because it's not going to be forever. So that's kind of, I don't know, blessing in disguise, I guess.
Yeah, maybe. That's a good way to put it. No, I would agree. There's been places where I've been like, I can't wait to leave, and I haven't really wanted to go back. But when it comes to Pennsylvania, that's home. I obviously want to go back there, and Utah's going to be one of those places too.
I love that. Well, in Utah, there's so much to see, and there's a reason there's a dozen national parks in Utah. Oh yeah, it's just gorgeous. Yeah. So cool. So.
I will admit though, we've been here a year, and I haven't been to a single one yet.
That's okay. It's hard to get out and about, but you're kind of in them all the time, especially in Spanish Fork. Down there gets into Uinta territory, I'm pretty sure, right?
Yeah.
You're just right on the edge. So,
and it's beautiful. We just drive up through the canyon sometimes, especially when the leaves were changing, and it was like, why do we need to drive down to Zion? And I'm like, well, we probably should at some point, and we will.
It's easy while you're here.
Yeah, having two young kids complicates things too. I'm like, I don't want to go in the car with them for hours.
Yes. That's hard. How old are your kids?
So I have two little girls. The oldest is 6 and the youngest is 2. So very tired over here, but
I don't blame you. I don't know. Yeah. I don't have kids yet. I don't know, but I have a lot of friends who do. And I don't know how you do it. Just all the mom awards to all the moms, because I'm exhausted every day and I don't have children or other tiny humans to look after. I don't know.
Oh, it's terrible. I love them very much. But
of course, just the time and the exhaustion. Yeah. They're not terrible. The
whole concept of it is a little bit terrible.
Yeah.
And I was one of those people before I had kids. I was like, kids are the absolute worst. I hated hearing them on airplanes, crying, the noise of crying kids. I'm like, this is just my nightmare. And then I have kids and I look forward to other people's kids crying on airplanes. And I'm like, please cry so it's not my kid that's doing it.
A massive change in perspective. I've heard that it's different when it's your kids and the perspective changes overall.
Yeah. Don't get me wrong. I still can't stand it when my kids cry, but it's different because I'm like, what do you need? As opposed to get away from me.
Right. So, here you go. That's kind of where I'm like, cute baby, it's crying. This is yours.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Yeah. People are like, are you going to have any more? I'm like, probably not. I want to be able to give them back after a while.
Fair.
I'll hold other people's babies and watch their kids, but they need to go home.
Right. So. Bye. I love that. What has been, is there anything in particular that stands out to you as being the most surprising element of motherhood or parenthood at large that you just did not expect
Yeah, that's a loaded question.
I know, right? I'm good at those. You are welcome.
I'm sure if I thought about it, I'd come up with a more just a better answer. But I think overall, it's hard. It is so hard. And I didn't expect it to be. I always thought I do want kids of my own someday. And I thought I'd be a stay-at-home mom, which I am. But the sheer, just the weight and responsibility of it, and just the day-to-day tasks, it's something. It's something. And I realized I'm the type that also gets overwhelmed very easily. And I'm a very anxious person. Yes. I'm just naturally an anxious person too. So anything that I can worry about, I do. And just the weight of that, sometimes I go to bed and I'm like, oh, will this ever end? And I know it won't, because I'm always going to be a mom. It's just different phases of it.
Right, right. The phases will end, and then you'll have other things to worry about. And instead of toys and activities, it'll be like meeting curfew and where are they?
I told my husband one day when I was
quality control.
Yes, when I was kind of over like the little kid phase, I was like, man, I can't wait till my kids are teenagers. And he just looked at me and he's like, okay, be careful what you wish for. Exactly. And of course, friends and family members that have teenagers, they're like, oh, that's a big mistake. You don't want to wish it away. That. Yeah. And I'm like, there's different things that'll come at different times that I'll be able to enjoy. Yeah. But man, it's hard. It's stinking hard.
Yeah. Good for you you're doing it. That's it. Yes. I think that's something that I always try and remind my friends of, because I do have like an outsider perspective. I don't have kids, and I get really defensive with my friends' kids if I'm ever around. And because a lot of my friends' kids are like getting to be 7, 8, 9 years old. You know what I mean? They're getting older. And so whenever I have the chance, like if there's ever any like attitude, or if there's any, I will be like, you have no idea how lucky you are to have the mother that you have.
Yeah.
Like I don't have kids yet. So like I am protective of my friend. Like they were here before you, kids. So you can I don't ever say it, but that's kind of like the attitude, because I'm so in awe of what all my mom friends do and have to put up with. And especially when the kids are like sassing back or fighting, I get all like mama bear about them, because like, don't you walk over my friend, you kid. Yes. Like you are lucky to be here.
Needs. That's awesome, Lizzie. Oh, that's great. Yeah.
To be clear, I've never like come down on any kid, but I always try and offer like a little nugget, and I always say things like, gosh, you have the best mom. You have the best parents. They love you so much. You have no idea. Like I'm always trying to like plant seeds, because that older, the 8, 9-year-olds, like they start to get skeptical. We're getting into that preteen territory. So anyway.
Yeah.
So, okay. Do your kids show an interest in making and in crafting like you do?
So my oldest is very much into it. She actually asked me the other day, which made me so proud. She's like, Mom, can you teach me how to stitch? And I froze. I didn't know what to do. I was like, here it is. Here's my
moment I've been waiting for.
And then I was getting all of her stuff set up, and I went to go get her, and she was watching this like animal documentary on TV, and that's kind of her thing. She loves animals. So she was zoned in on that, and I'm like, we'll wait for another day, I guess.
Well, hey,
because I don't want anything to take away from it.
Farm animals book, and we have a digital download of forest animals, and we are about to release like safari animals, African animals, like elephants and giraffes and zebras and stuff.
Yeah, that's exactly her thing. So that'll be perfect for whenever we do finally get that moment again.
Yeah, she's definitely right at that age that everybody's always like, yeah, I learned to stitch when I was like 7 or 8 with my grandma, or with my mom.
No, that's perfect. Yeah. I can't wait to show her. My youngest she's the real life person of baby Jack Jack. So she's not the type to sit down and work on crafts. Even at 2, she doesn't like to color too much. So we'll get there eventually. But for her, it's going to take a little while longer.
Oh my goodness. Okay, so if there's anyone listening who doesn't know Baby Jack Jack, he's a character in The Incredibles, Disney Pixar animated movie. And Baby Jack Jack has it's a superhero family. And Baby Jack Jack has all the superpowers in one, and he'll disappear and reappear all over the room in rapid fire, and he'll turn himself on fire and then turn himself into an ice cube, and he's just just unleashed energy.
That is my youngest, sweet little Lily. She's adorable.
All the superpowers.
Man, is she nuts.
I love that. So do you do any other crafts besides cross stitching?
Surprisingly, I don't. I'm more cross stitching's my main focus when it comes to crafting. But I love house projects. I love to paint. I love to do like if I see something like I don't know, let's say a wreath. I haven't done a wreath, but I made like a little a temple portrait for our living room one time. Nice. So it's little things like that. But overall, it's more house projects.
I love that,
painting and redoing home stuff and upgrading things. And
that's great. Yeah. Right.
I'm always looking at the house. Like, what can I change?
Oh yeah. I'm the same. So for listeners, right before we started our official interview, we were talking about wallpaper. I've got jungle wallpaper behind me. And I know that Lauren mentioned she installed a wallpaper in her daughter's room. And for those who aren't watching and are just listening, I can see behind her, she's got this very nice shelf with lights. There's Harry Potter vibes going on, nice bright room. Yeah. So it's clear that you're an environmental person like me. I'm very much influenced by the aesthetic of kind of where I am.
Yeah. And I'm very much into neutrals. Gray is my safe space.
Yeah.
But for my daughter's room, her wallpaper is full on jungle. It's not as detailed.
Oh yeah,
as
your
yours.
Animal loving daughter. No, perfect.
But yeah, there's an elephant, there's a giraffe, there's palm tree. It's crazy. So I went out of my element when I did her room, and I love how it turned out. Yeah. I'm surprised at how much I love it. So I'm maybe great. I need more color in here. What other wallpaper?
Sometimes you just got to take a bold choice. But I used to work at an interior design firm, place, whatever here. It was my last big kid job before quitting to do Stitch People full time, because I was at the minimum hours they could get. And I was like, my business needs more attention. Can I do 10 hours a week instead of 20? And they were like, we really need 20 or more. And I was like, God. So I had to quit. And I loved that job because I love interiors and color and furniture. But one of the things that I learned, a trick, is you're doing it just right, where if you decorate your big stuff with neutrals, like walls, sofas, your big pieces in a room, then you can swap out all the details with big color. So you can do colorful pillows or a big colorful throw rug, or even an accent wall of removable wallpaper. Then, if you get bored with a bright red rug or whatever, you can swap it out, but you're not
change it on out.
It's not the huge investment of a sofa or painting a room or anything like that.
Oh,
so,
yeah.
Yeah, you can take little risks.
That's a really good point.
Risks in littler ways,
My gray walls are going to come in handy someday. Then.
Exactly. It's like a blank canvas on which to paint, quote unquote paint, swap out your art, or swap out, curtains are an easy one too. Just little dressings.
Curtains, yes. Man, they're a pain to shop for, but they can change a room.
Oh my gosh. I get paralyzed picking out curtains. We redid our little guest room. We had 2 twins, and then long story short, my brother-in-law had a free queen, and he gave it to us, and we gave the twins to my sister. Anyway, so I just took the opportunity to freshen that room up a little, and I still don't have curtains because I just can't decide.
They're so hard. There's so many, and they're really expensive for what they are. They're literally just fabric to block out light. And I'm like, why are you so expensive?
I know. and then it's do you go solid? Do you go geometric? Do you go floral? Do you go ombre? Do you go floor to ceiling? Do you there's a lot. Do you do blackout? Do you do sheer? Because sheer is nice, but then you don't really block out any light.
Exactly.
Do you do the double rod? There's a whole thing.
Oh, it is. And it is exhausting. In our office where I'm sitting right now, I took the curtains down. I'm like, forget it. Until I find something I love, there's just going to be no curtains.
Yeah.
And that's actually how it is in most of the rooms of our house. But man, curtains and rugs. Oh, why?
It feels like such a commitment. So yes. I feel you. I feel you there. So tell me about your history with cross-stitching. When did you learn, and when did you find Stitch People, and what kinds of cross-stitch projects do you do, day to day?
Yeah. So you might be happy to know I didn't grow up cross stitching. I actually taught myself with the help of Stitch People at 29 years old.
Yay!
I was 29, and I'm like, okay, I'm turning 29. I'm going to treat myself to a birthday present. Hopefully something I can get some use out of, as opposed to, I don't know, some home decor item that I just set it and forget it somewhere else.
Right. Sure.
And so I was shopping, and I'm like, oh, I'm going to look into the Stitch People book.
Yes.
And so I bought it on Amazon, and I brought it home, and I'm like, okay, what do I do? I've never cross-stitched before.
I love it.
It was so
Talk
fun.
about taking a bold risk. That's fun. Just something new.
Yeah. And it worked out perfectly because my husband's family, they get together every Christmas, and they typically do a family gift exchange.
Oh, nice.
And that year I had chosen my oldest sister-in-law. And she is notorious for just being very, very into whatever gift you give her. She's so, just gracious and just loves everything that people get her. And I'm like, I'm going to wow the socks off of her.
Quality.
Oh, I know.
I would love if that was a way people described me. She's just always so great.
The literal best.
That's awesome.
She is so wonderful.
What a cool person.
There's always like my husband's family is wonderful, but they always tease her like, Jenny's going to cry. Jenny's going to cry. Because she does get emotional sometimes, but it's out of, a place of goodness and love.
Right.
And so I actually drew her
genuine
name. Yeah, I drew her name that Christmas, and I was like, I'm going to make her a project.
Perfect.
So I got the Stitch People book out, and I taught myself to cross stitch. And I actually, surprisingly enough, my first time ever cross stitching, the first piece I ever did was a Stitch People piece that was double size with like 8 people. I think it ended up being 8 people. I was way out of my league, but I did it, and I was so proud of myself. The 2 minutes leading up to the gift exchange, I'm like putting the finishing touches on things. I'm ironing it. I'm putting it in the frame.
I have been there.
Months.
Yeah. So double size, do you mean that so for a Stitch People portrait, typically they end up being 2 inches high by an inch wide, and each of the eyes is 1 cross stitch. When you doubled it, was it so that the square shape was maintained, and so now each eye is 4 stitches to create that square? Okay. Yeah. So it's quadruple size in reality. But
technically, I guess so.
But it's the only, it's the easiest way to keep that, make the squares.
The proportions.
Keep them square. Yeah. So and essentially that's something. The time commitment of a 16-person regular portrait, potentially, or more. I don't know. My math brain isn't working. Needless to say, that is a lot of work, and I respect the heck out of that. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
When it was done, I felt so good to just hand it over to her. And of course, she was, Jenny. She was wonderful about it. She was so happy, so gracious with it. I can't remember. That's embarrassing, but I can't remember because I was so nervous handing it over. I'm like, are you going to love it?
I love that. And she did.
I was just so proud of myself. And then, here we are, how many years later? I think it's only been 2, but I'm still stitching. So
I love that. So you didn't get scared or burnt out from your first giant experience. That's great.
I did need to take a bit of a break after that one because it was a little whoa. Yeah. But I loved it. It was so fun to teach myself. And if I got stuck, I am so grateful for the Facebook group because that was the place where I learned a lot of extra help and tips and tricks. It was so helpful. So good. I'm so grateful for Stitch People teaching an old dog new tricks.
I love that. Well, that's just it. I mean, and I love that you tapped into it. Because even the way you're talking about it, at 29, I'm going to try something new. Life, I don't know what it is or where we get it in our heads that you kind of decide who you are and what you like, and that's it. Yep. And you just I don't know. I think of it almost like a little plateau. When you're in high school and college, you're figuring out who you are. And then you get married and buy a house and have kids and you just ride for the rest of your life.
Flat.
That does not. Oh, hello. I'm so sorry.
Hello.
Apparently somebody's at the door. Dog is here. But I'm totally dissatisfied with the idea of that. And I totally love the idea. I'm saying totally a lot because it is total. I'm invested in that idea of people continuing to learn and grow and try new things and take risks, whether that's a colorful pop in their house or learning a new craft or just I don't know. We get these funny ideas in our head that we can't or shouldn't or it's too late.
Totally. Yep.
And I do the same thing, so I can't say that's nonsense because I do the same thing, but I don't know where that comes from.
I have no idea either. But you're so right. You're so right because I'm a very complacent person. I get into routines where I will eat the same thing for dinner or lunch for weeks at a time. It's so sad. But then once I take myself out of that, I know. Once I take myself out of that comfort zone, teaching myself how to cross stitch with the help of Stitch People, I'm like, why have I not been doing this?
I love that.
I wish I would have done it sooner, but it was meant to be at the time it was.
Things happen when they're meant to. That's what I always say. I love that. So do you have a favorite or standout portrait that you've made?
It's not so much a portrait, but it is Stitch People.
Okay.
I know that nobody will be able to see it on the podcast, but I've made my girls trick-or-treat bags.
Oh, fun!
Yeah, and so on the bag, it's actually a canvas tote, and it has the fabric in it, where you can stitch on it. So every year I just stitch their Halloween costume.
That is so
and
great.
I have my youngest, she was actually inappropriately baby Jack Jack for Halloween.
Ha ha. There it is. That's great.
So these have been, they're dirty because of course we just went to trick-or-treating not too long ago.
Halloween recently.
I have loved creating those. I think they're probably my favorite thing I've ever made. And I like every portrait that I do.
Yeah.
But that one to me, if they don't want it someday, I'm for sure keeping.
Oh yeah. Well, you could use it almost as Halloween decor, in
for sure.
15 years when they've flown the coop, and you could just hang them up or have them for Halloween. Because what a great memory, and what a great way. What I love about, we have I've seen a couple people post in the group that because you can buy these stitchable totes and people do different things with them. But I've seen a couple Halloween trick-or-treat versions, and I think it's a really great way to count on having something to always have to update. So it's not only something you get to keep, because there does get a point where it's like, how many family portraits of your own family can you have? Some people do like a yearly one, and that's fun to see, but otherwise, okay. But then to have something that you're planning on constantly adding to and growing and changing, that's really fun. And it gives you something to look forward to every year, and think about what they're going to be for Halloween and how you're going to make it into a pattern. And
I love it. And we're already planning next year's out, and I'm like, how am I going to stitch these costumes? But it'll get done somehow.
Yeah, so. I love that. Yeah. Well, congrats. That's a really fun project.
Thanks. Yeah.
Was that something did that sort of come to you on your own, or did you see an idea and then you made your own version of it?
I totally stole this idea from somebody in the Facebook group.
Hey, no, that's why I'm asking, because sometimes people come to the same conclusions on their own, and sometimes you get inspired and you do your own thing. And
no, I wish I would have thought of this first. It's so genius, but I forget the person who posted it, but she posted the photo of her children's Halloween bags because she saw these totes at Joann Fabric and went and bought them and created them.
So fun.
So smart. So then I went to Joann Fabric and got the totes, and I don't think they have them there anymore, unfortunately. I haven't checked recently, but I'm
not sure, because I got one there once, but it was like the last one. I think they kind of come and go, maybe. I did do one of these chats with Danielle. I am embarrassed that I'm not quite sure how to pronounce her last name. DeArakel. I'm so sorry, Danielle, but she showed her totes as well. And hers, like she laid it out a little bit differently. They say trick or treat, and like the little people are, inside the letters. But I just think it's so fun to see everybody give it their own twist. And just make things. I mean, and that's literally the whole point of Stitch People, is to make it yours, because we're not all the same. Go figure.
Exactly. Yeah, I was actually thinking about that the other day, because I was looking at my Etsy shop and I'm like, how does mine stand out from everybody else's? Because there are a few people out there that
for sure
sell their portraits too. And we all essentially do Stitch People, but how are they different? And as I was looking through people's Instagrams and on their Etsy shops, I'm like, wow, we all do put our own spin on things. I like mine where they don't have eyes or mouths. I know that's kind of strange, but people prefer it that way sometimes, and they prefer it with eyes and mouths. And I like how simple they look without it. Some people do just eyes. Some people have really funky ways of doing the eyes. And I'm like, man, that's just talking about the face. Think about the clothing and the backgrounds. And it's so awesome to see the diversity that can be put into it.
Yeah. Even down to like placement of things. Like I always like, if I'm going to do a floral, I generally prefer it at the bottom, just visually, like that's just my preference. But I know, some people really, it's like, what? I only ever put it on the top. It's just, you never really know. And your style without the eyes and mouths reminds me of those little statuettes.
Willow tree.
Yeah, the willow tree. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, because they don't have faces either. But what I think is interesting about that is Stitch People often... First of all, you can add as much detail as you want in these little things, like one little tiny stitch or a little allusion to a logo. People will notice it and see, but super detailed or not, by getting in the ballpark on clothing and hair and placement of characters, people immediately will project what's familiar to them onto the viewing of the portrait. And they go, oh my gosh, that's me. And I think even leaving out the eyes and the mouth offers even one more level of that, because you're not even giving them the face to necessarily look at. And so they get to put their whole spin on it as a viewer of it, which I think is a really, really interesting and really cool. And like you said, like that's what some people like. And
I love it. Yeah.
It's perfect. So how long have you been running your Etsy shop?
I'll be honest. I started kind of out of a place of desperation because I needed something for me.
Yeah.
My husband was deployed at the time and it was during a pandemic. So I needed
perfect.
10 out of 10. Do not recommend that combination ever.
Especially with little ones. Your youngest would be 1 last.
Oh, she was
younger.
6 months old at the time. Yeah. It was not fun. So I needed something for me at night after they went to bed for my me time.
Yeah.
And that's actually how my Etsy shop came about. It was just me time stitches. So here we go. And then I created my Etsy shop, and my first idea was that I'm going to focus on the double size. I'll do the big portraits.
Yeah.
That slowly, well, I shouldn't say slowly, that quickly faded away because it's
slow. Yeah.
It took so long. And I'm like, you know what? These little guys, there's something there. They're just a lot quicker to do.
Yeah.
And so I've switched more to just the normal size stitch people and the ornaments and stuff. But I've had that since March 2020. So,
great. I love that. I love it.
Yeah. Kind of ebbed and flowed with, how often I post and how often I change things. I recently went through a rebranding phase.
Love it. Love it.
Redid everything, but now we're good. Yeah, we're good now.
That's great. I love that. That's something that, Stitch People for me and for my husband has always been about a lifestyle. The fact that we get to work from home and do our own thing has always been hugely valuable to us. So it's really rewarding when it is something that lends itself to helping other people get that as well. Because just that self-sufficiency, the me time, the having a little bit of extra income, and also the ability to slow down and not take orders for a while and not post to social media if you don't want to, just being in complete control and not being reliant, it's really empowering. So I'm really glad that you've been able to tap into that.
I'm so grateful for it, Lizzie.
That's awesome.
It's been wonderful.
So
I've just loved the opportunity and I love it. I think what I love most of all is when people come to me and place an order, because it's like, you want something from me.
Yeah. You like me, you really like
me. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I just want to be like, thank you guys so much.
I know.
I can't express that when I'm stitching and I can't put it in a package and ship to them, but I am just so grateful that people want to support somebody's little dreams. So.
I love it. I love it. I mean, even still, sometimes we'll get orders on Stitch People, and now we've been doing this some years, but on certain days or whatever, I'll see an order come through and it's like, it's working. You just get this. It's just cool when you stop and pause and say I'm providing something to someone who wants it, who needs it, and I'm sure with the commission portraits, it's always, I have found, at least in the past, I don't do them so much anymore, but it's often for really cool things and really monumental moments, like a wedding anniversary or baby announcement, or a really special thing that now you get to be a part of. It's just fun. It's cool. It's very special. Yeah.
Yeah. And especially now with it being the holiday season, people have been placing orders for Christmas ornaments. And I recently had somebody, she placed an order for 9 Christmas ornaments because there's been so many babies born in her family in the past year. And she wanted to celebrate that. And I'm like, I've looked at these people's pictures way too much. So I feel like I'm part of I'm like, I feel like I know these people.
You do. It's true though, because you have to really, you don't just glance at a picture and draw a thing. It's like, you really have to look and which side of their head do they part their hair on? What is their eye color? If you include that, you're zooming in close, or spots on the dog, and you're looking very close. It's very discerning. So it does get a little, for lack of a better word, a little intimate, because you're just really taking it all in so that you can hit all the points.
My favorite is when you're making something for somebody as a gift so they don't know, and you're trying to stalk their photos on Facebook or Instagram and see what you should be putting in. I'm like, this is not normal.
And you're scrolling and you're looking for where can I see their shoes? I don't see any shoes. I need to know what's on their feet.
Then you accidentally a picture and you're like, oh no.
Now they're going to know it's 2 years old. Yeah. Oh, yes. And it does and you justify it because you're like, no, I'm making a gift. I'm doing something nice, but it's a little stalkery, but for a good payoff. And especially if it's someone and love, they're going to appreciate that, all the recon.
So, I'm getting good at it. Really, really good.
It's true. You do get in the groove of knowing what to look for. Like, oh, that's a good picture, snag it or whatever. Just, I couldn't even tell you, like, ones where you can see the full outfit, shoes included, latest hairstyles, you know, like just really even lighting so that you know exactly what color the hair is, that kind of stuff.
Oh, getting the hair color. Oh, yeah. always
an adventure.
Yeah.
I love it. So Lauren, do you come from a particularly crafty family such that, like, was it natural for you when you were, 29, wanting to learn something new? Was it natural for you to like lean into something crafty, or was the step into something sort of artistic even new for you?
Yeah, that's a good question. I would say so. I don't particularly remember anybody in my family doing a specific craft necessarily. But just overall, like I know for, off the top of my head, my grandmother and my mom, they love to decorate their homes very nicely, very nice. And just, it always looks good. Yeah. And then my grandmother's sister, so I guess my great aunt, she has a beautiful home as well. So I think there might be something in that vein.
Totally.
But I have always been into, being younger and being really into scrapbooking. And like that was a big thing for me for a while. So the branching out to cross stitch isn't a huge leap, but it was enough that it made me a little uncomfortable because I've never done needlecraft before. And then here I am, and I'm like, this is where I needed to be all these years, but I didn't know it. So
right. Well,
hey, now's the
timing. That's right. Divine intervention.
Cruise on to middle age and
and hey, who knows what you're going to pick up? When you're 39 or 49.
We'll see.
Never say never. Maybe you'll be like throwing pottery. You'll build yourself a kiln in retirement. Who knows?
Really neat.
Who knows?
I shied away from pottery in high school because I knew I wouldn't be good at it. And now I'm like, well, maybe I should just give it a shot.
It's just, I mean, stitching is patience, right? So I took a pottery class once with my mom. We went, it was like 4 or 6 sessions or whatever. And to me, I think the biggest lesson was just patience. It's just like, you just got to hold the thing, and like, it's very, very patient maneuvering more than you think, because it looks like it goes faster than it does. But anyway, so I mean, definitely keep in touch and let us know what else you're trying here and there.
I'm like, I took up skydiving. You're like, not what I was expecting.
I love that. Would be so. Can you imagine? We should coordinate a Stitch People Goes Skydiving adventure, and we can all pile in a plane.
Skydived, but I would be open to doing that for sure. For sure.
I like to say that I'd be open to trying it, but then when I actually like close my eyes and picture it, I don't know. I'm uncomfortable with a free fall.
I think I'd be that person at the door of the plane, just like full on starfish. Like, don't you dare.
Look, I will do it on my own time.
Yes.
Because I love a roller coaster, but the rides that freak me out are like the ones that like shoot you up and drop you, like a Tower of Terror or whatever. It's just the free fall. Just there's something so. I don't know.
I understand.
So I don't know if I could. And then there's this part of me that's like, Lizzie, that's why you need to go do it. You need to go do it because you're afraid, We'll see. I think hang gliding.
Hang gliding sounds fun.
What were you going to say? No use in what?
There's no use in worrying too much about it, but at the same time, it's like if you truly don't want to do something, you can't force yourself.
Right, exactly.
Because I'm very stubborn in that regard. It's like if I don't want to do something, I just straight up won't do it.
I love it.
But you always hear that outside pressure, like, "Oh, you should do it." It's like, what if I don't want to?
Right. I think that's like a life lesson, though, and I love that. Having knowing yourself and having strong internal boundaries. You don't want to be pushed around, but with like an openness to hear other perspectives, like where it's like, I know what I'm about, but I also know that there's a lot I don't know, I think that's important. Like life's kind of the gray area, right? So tell me, do you have any other, other than skydiving, do you have any other hobbies or interests beside cross stitching? I mean, I know being a full-time parent, especially when your husband's away, that's going to take up a lot of time, but
it kind of eats up a lot. But and you can probably tell, but I am obsessed with Harry Potter. Like that is a big interest of mine. And there's not even I don't go to conventions if there are any. I don't write fan fiction, but I love just listening to the Harry Potter books on audio book while I stitch and while I'm doing other things around the house. Or I don't know. There's just always been a comfort that has come with Harry Potter. So that's a really big interest of mine.
I love that.
Borderline scary, nerdy, but it's me. So
we've all got our things. I think Harry Potter, especially for, I mean, I'm 32. I think we're about the same age. And so I remember when there was this new book. I remember my teacher in fifth grade had a basket that sat on top of a tall filing cabinet full of books that were wrapped with wrapping paper. And then there was a colorful ribbon hanging off it and like down to kid level. So it was just cascading down the file cabinet, all these colorful ribbons. And when you were picked for, I don't know what you had to do, but that was like, you were the good kid of the week. I don't know what it was. You could go you picked a color of ribbon, and then, the teacher would follow it up to the book in the basket. You don't know what it's going to be. And I got Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone, and it was like this new release, like this new interesting book that was getting popular.
That's incredible.
And so, I mean, Harry Potter has been part of our generation since we were like 9, so, and then to have them released over time, it's just nostalgic, and it feels, and it is magical, and it harkens to this idea of, a better time or like magic, it's just,
No,
I don't want to go so far as to say like escapism, but it does, it's kind imagination. And you picture life a different way, and it's fun. And I totally get what you're saying, where it's like feels good, and it's fun to listen
truly,
to.
Like people are always like, oh, it's home, but it really is like you, I have a similar experience. That teacher was genius for doing that book idea, by the way.
Thing? I always loved that.
But my mom put it in one of my Easter baskets, I think when I was 8 years old. And she was like, it's a new book. Yeah. I hope you love it. I know you love to read. And I'm like, oh, okay, thanks, Mom. And I remember thinking like the whole magic thing isn't really my style. Like, I don't know if I'm going to like it. So I put off reading it for a couple weeks. And then I finally started, and from that moment I was done. I'm like, this is it. This is all I needed. Thanks, Mom, for putting that in my Easter basket so many years ago.
I'd be curious to know what it is about it. I mean, the first book, you open it up, like the first chapter hooks you. Like it, clearly it hooked the world, right? I'm curious, even just like from a technical perspective, what about it works so well? You know what I mean? Like why? What is it? I have no
idea. Yeah, but it does. It just does. And I think, to your point, it speaks to that little part of us that just want to get away and use our imagination, even as adults. So,
right. Yeah, I love that. I think that's great. Have you been to Harry Potter Land World in Orlando or California?
No, I am dying to go. We planned on, actually, when my husband got home from deployment originally, because we were living in Georgia, the plan was for him and I to go for a quick trip, just us two, to Universal Studios and see Hogwarts and everything. And then things changed with the pandemic. So we didn't get to go, but I will one day go, and I will one day go to London where they have the studio tour, which is like
I would love to go. My sister's done that. She said it's pretty cool. Like that they just hit it, especially for fans, that they just do it right, I would definitely say, for you being such a big fan, like talk about a hard internal boundary. Go don't go to Universal Studios unless you do Orlando first. Like, because it has both Hogsmeade and Hogwarts and Diagon Alley, versus California only has Diagon Alley, or it only has one. Orlando's is bigger. And so just to commit to give yourself like the full experience. I visited that one once. We lived in California briefly, so I did get to go to Hogwarts there a couple times. But yeah, like if you're a fan, just do Orlando. Just go straight for the big thing. Yeah, and drink all of the butterbeer. Oh my gosh, the frozen butterbeer. Oh my gosh.
People have very strong opinions. I've been learning they either like the frozen or they like just the normal butterbeer. And I'm like, well, what's the difference? But there's different types, I guess. Who knew?
We went in Florida. It was hot, so we only ever had the frozen. It basically just tastes like, those butterscotch chips that you could bake with, but like so good. Liquefied and frozen into a slushie. Like,
oh no, that'll be good.
We didn't have a hot one because it was hot outside, but I think we had 3 over the course of our day. Like, whoa. So
that sounds good.
I can't wait. I want that for you. I'm like willing it into the universe. Dream vacation.
Oh, yes, I cannot wait. One day we'll go. But I'm also like kind of holding back because I know I'm going to make an absolute fool of myself. I will be that 30-year-old bawling at Hogwarts.
You will be with your people. I tell you what. You bring your wand, wear your robe, whatever you want. You will not be alone. I tell you what.
I have to get a robe.
It's like a safe space.
Yet. I need my Slytherin robes. I need my wand.
Are you a Slytherin?
I am. Yes.
I love that. I'm a Gryffindor myself. I admit, I wish I was a Hufflepuff. You married. See, they say Slytherins and Gryffindors are very similar,
but they do work. They do work, and I've created a little Ravenclaw and a little Slytherin. So
I love that. Spencer's definitely Ravenclaw for sure. Mm-hmm. I'm like a reluctant Gryffindor because I know why Gryffindors are the way they are. And I know the traits that keeps them from being other things. And I'm like, they're like my not proud traits. Because I'm one of those people that like, I will break the rules if it's for the greater good. You know what I mean? Like I'm good at like, which is, you know, the Gryffindors have like that brave, whatever. But it's just, I wish I was a Hufflepuff. I wish I had like that like goodness and like solid, I don't know. Anyway. Yes. But I'll be a Gryffindor.
I admire Hufflepuffs because they're just so unabashedly.
Yes, genuine.
And a lot of times people just get put down because they're Hufflepuffs.
Oh, I think it's the best house. I think it's the most. I think it's the one to shoot for, to be honest. Because there just seems like the most wholehearted of the types, essentially, that you could be. Sure. Just happy and good and honest and true.
Well, the books
really admire them.
The books paint him in such like a weird light because it's like in the one book, the founder of Hufflepuff is like, well, we'll take all the rest. It's like, we'll just take whoever doesn't fit anywhere.
Right,
it's like,
sure.
Well, that's not really the right attitude.
Right.
Okay. But they're loyal. Anyway, I could go on and on.
I know.
But I am proud to be a Slytherin.
That's good. Most Slytherins I know have like, they own it. It's a,
yes.
Slytherins know what they're about. And I respect that because I see the good in Slytherin. You know, I'm not a Slytherin hater, so
yeah.
I love that. So tell me this: I feel like you said that you listen to the Harry Potter audiobooks a lot. Mm-hmm. Do you you strike me as someone who might listen to like movie soundtracks and stuff too? Is that true?
A little bit.
Do you listen to like the Harry Potter soundtracks?
Oh, yeah, the Harry Potter soundtrack. Good. That's actually my ringtone.
I love it. Haha. It's because the music helps to create that atmosphere. Yes. John Williams was the right choice.
Yes. Well, my other thing is, too, I know that if you go to the studio tour in London, you can walk into a room, or so I've heard. This is all, coming from secondhand stories, but you walk into a room and there's this huge, it's not life-size, obviously, but it's a very big Hogwarts castle. It's just like a big,
awesome.
What's the word? I don't know. It's a big thing. Set? It's a big, it's like a little miniaturized Hogwarts castle, but it's bigger. Okay. I don't know. No words are coming out that make sense right now. But anyway, you walk in and they're playing the soundtrack. And I've heard like, if you're not prepared, it's going to take you completely by surprise and you're just going to lose it. And I know that'll happen to me. I'm just going to be like, I'm home. I'm at home.
Good. I'm glad. Yes, you deserve that. That's great. I think is it that like large, but not life-size set piece that they often build like, and then they can do like the flyover shots. That might be what it is? That might be it. That's probably it looks real in the movie because of the way they film it. It makes it look like it's life size, but they can do it in miniature. Like with Star Wars, I know they did that with like a lot of the ships in the original anyway. Probably something like that. But yeah.
Oh, I can't wait. I cannot wait. So
I love that. I love how it lights you up.
Yes. It's one of those things that it's just like, it's so fun to talk about because people have certain opinions, good or bad or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And it's like, I love to talk to people about it and get to know like where they're coming from. I loved hearing you share that story about how you came upon the first book. And I love that. It's so fun.
So good. It's so good. Well, I think that is a great segue. I would go so far as to say that Harry Potter is probably your favorite book. So
absolutely.
We can jump into learning about more of your favorite things here at sort of the tail end of our conversation. So here we'll start with an easy one. Do you have a favorite color?
Yeah. So I kind of have two. I like olive green and black.
Ooh. What? Slytherin. There you go.
I'm very, very basic, but good, like nice olive green.
Love an olive green.
Black.
Olive green is very versatile.
It is. It is. It's like a neutral for me at this point.
Yeah,
so.
Totally. Yeah. I love it. Do you have a favorite vegetable?
Oh, a favorite vegetable. That's an interesting one. Peas.
Ooh, solid choice. Favorite forest animal, forest creature?
Oh,
being from Pennsylvania.
Oh no, I like all forest animals. Honestly, I don't have a favorite. I don't have an issue with any of them that I can think of. So I like them all.
I love that.
I think bears are especially intriguing
because
they don't really have a good reputation, but they're quite adorable.
Yeah, I love bears. Do you have a favorite food? You mentioned you can eat the same thing, a lot in a row, which I think is just indicative of like being satisfied and really liking it. So do you have a favorite thing that you're just going to get hooked on if you start?
Well, yeah, a lot of things are like the Dots pretzel, the Dots honey mustard pretzels. Oh, so good.
That's an
issue.
Or
like a good caramel apple is also one of those right now. I'm in like that mood.
'Tis the season.
But the other thing is my favorite food is probably they don't make it anymore, of course, but it was like a frozen DiGiorno pizza. How embarrassing. Yum. It was so delicious. I've never had a frozen pizza that tasted like this. And then they discontinued them and they are gone.
Well, hey,
so
it sounds like
you're listening.
There you go. Bring it back. What was the specific one? Do you remember?
Oh gosh, it was something in Italian, like Quattro Formaggio or something like that. But it was pizzeria style. Oh, it was good. It was so good. My husband and I would have it at least once a week.
It's not delivery, it's DiGiorno, because they say it's just as good. So clearly they weren't wrong.
But all their other ones don't taste like it.
Yeah. Oh, that's too bad. Do you have a favorite like get up and go song? Like your favorite exercise song or like get you up in the morning song?
Oh, no, because I don't exercise.
That's okay. Just like a song that always gets you dancing or...
Yeah, that's a good... I don't really dance either. I sound really fun. I know. But I'm not a huge like dancer and get up and go. I'm more like... For me, I love listening to country music. And so anything by Luke Combs is like it for me. Perfect. I love whether it's a faster paced song or a slower paced song, his music just speaks to me.
I love that. I love that a lot. Yeah. And now, final question. You've moved around quite a bit. I don't know if you've traveled a lot or anything, but do you have a favorite place that you've visited or lived, favorite travel destination, favorite like place to be?
Oh.
Or that you'd love to go back to?
Well, obviously home for me is State College, Pennsylvania. That's home. But if I have to pick, it's probably like the Williamsburg, Virginia area.
Ooh,
I've traveled, to Mexico and to Spain and like fun places, but Williamsburg, Virginia is just comfort for me too, because my family would vacation there pretty much every summer. We'd go to Busch Gardens and Colonial Williamsburg. And so I love Williamsburg.
Awesome. I love that. See, this is why I love to ask these questions, because you never know. Like, Spain was great, but I love the, the feeling and the memories of, there's something about colonial. I love the colonial vibe of New England and the East Coast in general. And, there's just something about it that I really like.
It's so fun. Yeah. It's so fun. I always hear people, they're like, oh, if you could live at any time, what time would you live? And I know I'm not necessarily as strong as the women back in colonial times were, but I think colonial times would be fun. Or like the 20s and 30s and 40s era. I love it.
What a time. What a time. I love that. Well, what a cool note to end on. I love that you've got that like pull towards history. Maybe that's why stitching appeals. It's such a like centuries old tradition that something to do with your hands and make your home more beautiful. And it's kind of a historical craft. So
I'm going to run with that.
You're doing it. Yeah. I love that. Well, Lauren, thank you so much for your time today. It's so fun to get to know you and chat with you and learn about your kids and Harry Potter and all the fun things that light you up and make you who you are. It's so great.
Well, thank you, Lizzie. This has been so fun. I'm so honored. This is
I'm so glad.
It's changed my world. So I'm so grateful for Stitch People.
That's so kind. Well, Stitch People is grateful for you, and we look forward to seeing you around the community. Am I right? I think Lauren is an absolute delight, and I'm so grateful she took the time to chat with me, and I'm glad to know her better. I think it's fun to just connect with people about whatever it is they are interested in, and Lauren has so many interests. I love that she knows what she's about. It was just so great to chat with her, and hey, maybe we will, see you all together someday, me and Lauren and all of you, when we go skydiving on our Stitch People skydiving adventure. Something like that anyway. Thank you so much for listening to today's episode with Lauren. Thank you for listening to the Stitch People podcast and enjoying these conversations with Stitch People like you. I would super appreciate if you could take a moment and subscribe to the podcast, leave us a rating and review. It'll help us shine more cross-stitchy sunshine into the world. If you'd like to be interviewed on the Stitch People podcast, please visit stitchpeople.com/podcast. There's a link to a form there where you can submit. And if you have any feedback for us, send us an email at info@stitchpeople.com. We'd love to know what you like, what you don't like, and as always, what we could be doing better for you. You can check out everything that Stitch People has to offer by way of cross-stitch patterns, books, merch, and more at stitchpeople.com. And please connect with us on Facebook, Instagram, and Pinterest. We'd love to see everything you're up to. Lastly, I want to really thank you all in the Stitch People community for your support of us, but more for your positive and cooperative encouragement of one another. I'd like to thank our incredible Stitch People team for making all the magic happen behind the scenes. And last but not least, I want to let you know our fully licensed jazzy tunes were created by Jonathan Boyle, and our sound designer, audio engineer extraordinaire is Brandon Yost. Have a wonderful day, my friends, and happy stitching. Stitch People Podcast is a production of Beansky LLC and Stitch People. Copyright 2022, all rights reserved.